Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I am being joined once again by John Dayton, who you may have seen me chat with before. He was a production assistant on the Waltons and then went on to be a writer, director, producer, and was a lifelong friend of Katharine Hepburn and has shared some wonderful stories about working with her, hiring her, and just being friends with her. So today he's going to be talking with me about the Waltons and other aspects of shows he's worked on and stories from Hollywood. So please welcome back, John Dayton.
Welcome to my kitchen. Well, this is hilarious, Judy. I've been watching all the old TV series, so make room for it, because a lot of them are fixed, reprinted, and they're streaming them. So I watched the entire, I think it's 5 years of Make Room for Daddy. Mm-hmm. And there's an episode called Honesty is the Best Policy. And I'm watching it, and there's a knock on the door in Danny Thomas's apartment, and Danny opens the door, and it's Joe Connolly.
Oh.
He must have been 18, 19.
Wow.
Judy, he was hilarious. Huh. He played an elevator operator, but he must have had probably 6 or 7 pages of very, very funny stuff.
And I looked all through the wallet to see if I could find any identification. Well, it wasn't much to go on. Just a driver's license with your name on it.
And Joe got, that was 3-camera film in front of a live audience. And Joe was so good that when he made his exit, the audience applauded for him.
Oh, Mr. Williams, you don't have to do that. Thank you very much. And goodbye.
Oh.
Was, miss him.
Yeah.
I always go back to that story. Harry Harris was directing. I don't remember the name of the episode. I have a hard time remembering the episode names. But it was the episode where Joe got mistakenly drafted. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I played a lieutenant or something like that, and was escorting him into the offices of the draft board. So here, Joe had nothing but a towel wrapped around him. That was it. He had nothing else. No shoes, no socks, nothing under the towel. And we had to make our entrance. There was a wall and a doorway. And we had to come through the doorway and then go to make this long walk over to the table. So I are back there. And the camera's rolling, and we could not hear a thing. Mm. We couldn't hear anything. And the reason I remember it was Harry. All of a sudden, he yelled, "Can't you hear us? Can't you hear us?" And poor Joe, he's freezing. I said, "Okay, we'll try it again." So we tried it again, and we still couldn't hear. So Harry said, "Put up a damn light." Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Such great memories.
Yeah.
One of the questions was about That was the Dewdrop Inn episode where Michael, our grandma, were upset because Jason was playing the piano at the Dewdrop Inn. Merle Haggard was in that episode.
Okay, that would have been the comeback.
The comeback, yeah.
Yeah.
Merle Haggard was in that episode, and he took over for who had that role before he.
Oh, in The Gift. Because he was supposed to be Ron Howard's father. Merle Haggard came back to do an episode, and it was the continuation of The Gift from season.
Oh yes, of course, yeah. Who is that? But Merle wasn't the original.
No, he was not the original. Okay, we have to do research here. Ken Swofford.
That's right. That's who it was. Ken, and Ken. I believe Ken passed.
Yes, 2018.
Yeah. Well, his question was, in the Dewdrop Inn, there was a picture of Ron.
This is from Eric. He said there was a picture of Ron, and he was wondering whether Ron would have gotten royalties from that episode since there was a picture of him. So different question. No. And that is because the show owns the rights to that because of having done. So if a show uses a picture of an actor, it's just a freebie.
When I was working on Fun Factory, we had this game where it was a photograph, and there were little clown pieces put over the face, and the couple would get two people, and they had to guess who was behind the clown face. You pull one off and the next, and if you got it the first time, it was pretty good. I think it was $2,500. So I had to go. It was my game, so I had to find people who would allow me to. Who gives me an 8x10 and allow me to use it on the show. You wouldn't believe the people. David Jansen, Elizabeth Taylor. Who's her husband?
Richard Burton.
Richard Burton. I got all the shows that were shooting at that time, Heart to Heart, like both Stephanie and
Robert Wagner.
RJ. Yeah. And there was never a question. It was just like, yeah, here you go. And they said, then they were the winner got to keep the picture, and it was signed. Not, everybody signed them. It was so much fun. God, Warner Brothers it just was a lovely place.
This is from Gary Wormy, who said he used to work on Young and the Restless.
Yeah.
And due to space considerations on a production, the main family homes or businesses were always in use. And they stayed up while so due to space considerations on a production that goes all year round. So we weren't all year round, which was what them were referring to. So did they stay? So those did not stay up, or they got dismantled, and then wondering how that compares to the Waltons, because Young and the Restless went all year round. So I guess he's saying those stayed up, the main house sets.
Yeah.
Thinking that the Walton soundstage at Warner Brothers is likely bigger with more space for the indoor sets, assuming the Walton interiors always stands unless it's taken down during the hiatus.
Yeah, I thought we had gone over before about stage 26 and how we handled that. That was the stage was 35 feet high and 160 by 135 is what it was. How did that come back to me? But I know that was, I know it was, and they were taken down because we were renting that stage, and there was an agreement with the Burbank Studios, set dates, but we would move in after hiatus, come back in, set would be all built up again, and we just take off. The other thing that the question was the exterior.
Yeah. So what I have here is that is the house mobile.
The outside house, I got a kick out of it. Didn't Gary say, was it locked?
Is the house mobile, but were the decorative objects that make a house a home locked up on a daily basis? So
that was 26.
Yeah. So no, I mean, it was just, did they lock the sound stages at night? I mean, there was security on the lot.
No.
So,
and the permanent house, of course, wasn't locked because there wasn't anything in it.
Exactly. The exterior. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so let's see, what about the Baldwin's mansion? So that we only had the one interior, really kind of parlor area and the front.
But that was
hallway that was there all the time on 26. And that exterior house was over on the ranch.
Right. And I hope that it's one of the buildings that they saved.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that was amongst the ones that went bye-bye. But I don't know if our house, when it moved over to the ranch, is still there because it was in sort of tucked away in a back corner. So I don't know.
It was a duplicate. It was a replica. It wasn't the house. They didn't move it. It was.
Well, I know they had to rebuild after there was a fire on the back lot of Warner's before in between a couple of the reunion movies, and they had to rebuild when we were going to come back. And then I heard it was moved. So maybe it wasn't moved. Maybe it was just, as you say, replicated over on the other ranch.
Yeah. Well, I remember that in the it was way back in the corner.
Yeah.
And a barn had been built also.
Right. Yeah, which is interesting because they didn't rebuild the new mill. So we were back to sort of just using the barn and the sawmill area next to the barn because there just wasn't really the space back there to also have the mill that had been there. And I probably story-wise, they didn't really have enough to make it worthwhile. So, and it's just something like Verdi's house or the boarding house. These sets would be in storage. So interiors, yeah. So clearly they marked all those interiors. They were labeled so that then when they needed to put a set back together, they could just go and pull those from wherever they were stored.
Yeah.
Now, somebody else had asked me one time, they said they thought that on some other house interior, they said, oh, it looked like they had used the sofa, the couch from the Walton house in somebody else's house, which I thought seemed highly unlikely that they would have moved the Walton couch to somebody else's house for an interior to use the Waltons, as opposed to potentially that there were just a lot of floral fabrics that were either the same and they had other furniture or they were just similar.
I did look up the Baldwin house because here the Baldwin sister's house, because it was very funny. I mean, that house was used so much. And there was a movie with Spencer called The Last Hurrah. And he was running for mayor. And that they shot all of that out French Street, all of that, and the park. They used all of that. And the Baldwin sisters' house was his house, was Spencer's house in the movie. And it looks just the same.
And that was all over on the ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't shoot at the ranch a lot, so I wasn't as familiar with that lot.
When you came, when there was a gate by Hollywood, off of Hollywood Way, when you came in, there was a gas station, prop gas station, and then across from that was the Baldwin house. 1935.
Wow.
That house was built, and so many movies were made there. I would think that, they would leave it standing. That just broke my heart when I heard about. And then all those plants, those beautiful plants, they gave away. Or you could come in and buy. Obviously, you're in Arizona, but you could come in and buy plants for 50 cents, or the fruit trees. All of that stuff was sold, and I remember, you might, the pool. Remember when the swimming pool?
Yeah, I remember it was there, and I don't know that we ever used it because I don't recall it.
No, but I'll tell you who did use it, Harry. And he used it for an episode of 8 is Enough.
Oh, okay.
And he got into a fight with
Was with Betty Buckley.
Betty Buckley, yeah. And we were shooting outside, and all of a sudden I see Harry, and he's marching like this, and his smoker's a cigarette, and he's yelling and he's screaming. What happened was they got in a big argument about some lines, and so Buckley turned around and jumped in the pool. So makeup, hair, wardrobe.
Yeah, I had heard that she jumped in the pool or something. I just didn't know the details. I thought it was a day also that we were supposed to be doing a photo shoot, like the Waltons and the 8 is Enough cast or something like that. Or the day we did that photo shoot was the day I heard about the incident, but maybe it wasn't the same day that we did the photo shoot. But
can you believe this? I mean, hello, that's terrible.
She felt very strongly about those lines, very clearly. She wanted to say them. She didn't want to say them. She wanted them changed.
And you do know that Mark Hamill was working on a series, and Mark had got cast in 8 is Enough. Did you know that? He played Grant Goodeve came in.
Okay. I think I heard something about that because I think he might have even come on our set one day.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. And he got that script. His dressing room was right outside our stage for Texas Wheelers, I think was the name of that. And he signed a contract for 8 is Enough. And he was so sweet. He tossed the Star Wars script at me and said, "This is the worst thing I've ever read." He says, I can't make any sense out of this. He says, the characters, they don't have like names. They've got letters like R and a 2.
R2D2.
So I took it home. I think it was a Thursday night. I took it home and brought it back the next day, and I said, I gave up. I just gave up. He said, well, Alec Guinness has been cast. And I said, oh my God, this is going to probably be a pretty good movie. And then our girl.
Oh, Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, Carrie.
Yeah.
And Carrie had, she'd been by a few times because she was reading over at Universal. And I don't think the two of them knew that they were young kids. They weren't big stars. Carrie was probably more well known than Mark. And so Mark had his contract. He was going to go off to London, I'll never forget him saying to me, he says, "Hey, how much is an apartment in London?" And I said, "Well, I'm pretty sure it's pretty expensive." And the show was giving him money. They just gave him money, and then you can go get your apartment. And I think they were going to give him $500 a month for his apartment. And I know it was a whole lot more than that. But so they shot the movie, came back, and they had a premiere or a screening in San Francisco, and everybody got up and applauded at the end. I mean, they just went crazy.
Wow.
It was such a good movie.
Yeah.
And such a great ending, really. I got to go to the premiere at Grauman's. And I was like sitting in the front row at that big screen, and here comes that starship. Like, it's not And so, well, Mark was in a bad place because Lee, it was Laura Marshall, was not going to let him out of his contract because, hey, if Star Wars is a big hit, then perhaps 8 is enough movie. But they did work. They talked about doing a second Star Wars. Did they ever do a second one?
I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, seems to me.
And so he got out of his contract, and we were at because our crew did the tests.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of guys in Grant Goody got the part, but that was so much fun. So we were on 26 and they were on 27 or 8. And then the next one over was the Dukes of Hazzard. John
Schneider.
This is really funny. All these things come back to me, and they're so great. I had to go over to see Pam Polifrone. For some reason, she was at Hollywood at the old Goldwyn studio. So I drove over there. So I was the only PA. So I had to go over and get something from Pam. Well, I didn't have a car. I walked. While I was at Goldwyn, John asked me if he could ride back. The secretary's car, I swear to you, it was an old Ford Blue. The seats are falling apart, and you could actually see the street.
Oh, no.
It had rusted out. And so I said, well, John, if we can, take it back. We never forgot that. We laughed all the way.
You must have dealt with them a lot when we were all on the back lot together, shooting at the same time.
That was the problem.
Yeah.
Between policewoman with Angie and all those blanks that popped, and then the only quiet show was RJ's show, Heart to Heart.
Yeah.
They were mostly inside on the stage, and then when they would go off to where they go a fancy hotel or something, and they'd be off the lot, and it was so much fun.
Thank you for joining me for part 1 of my segments with John Dayton as we talk about Hollywood, the Waltons, and beyond. I will be back with more behind the scenes of the Waltons and more Ask Judy and more with John Dayton. Thanks for watching.